What is up, my teachers on fire? It's been almost 1 year since I wrote about my one word for 2019, and that one word was the word create. If you're new to the whole one word thing, it comes from this idea. I think it was developed by John Gordon. He wrote a book called One Word That Will Change Your Life. I was skeptical about the whole hashtag one word stuff, and it was going around Twitter for a while. Like I said, I was skeptical, I was cynical, I was a little reluctant to jump on that train, but I started to hear from educators and edu-stars that I really respected and admired, people like Rose Pillay, who is a constant source of inspiration and compassion and empathy and innovation for change in education. And I started to think maybe there's something to this whole one-word thing that I need to take a look at. And so I sat down for my very first one word and I thought about everything that I believed in, everything that I wanted to be about in this year. And I came up with the word create. You see, this whole idea of creation is super profound and powerful because we live in a culture of total consumption, right? I mean, we consume everything. We consume massive amounts of meat and massive amounts of clothing and plastic and digital content. Let's talk about digital content because that's where we are right now. You're consuming my content and I thank you for that. I consume content too, but is that all we're doing, right? Are we, like I say to my students and my stepsons, we're consuming all of the time, but what are we actually creating? What are we contributing back to the world? Because it's in acts of creation that we build relationships, that we form meaning, that we actually contribute value to the world around us, to communities around us. And so I wanted to be about creation in this year of 2019. Specifically, I wanted to be about three kinds of creation: creating new content, new learning, and new relationships. And in the whole area of creating content, I had some specific goals there. In 2018, I published 30 blog posts. Not bad, but I wanted to do better. And I'm happy to say I'm happy to say that in 2019, I broke that record by July. Now, granted, once July came, I sort of got into my thesis work and my whole blogging really slowed down. In fact, it almost died, but I did break my 2018 record. Did I get to a weekly blog post, something legendary like my friend Anik Roke in Winnipeg does? No, I didn't. And I certainly didn't approach our good friend George Kouros's apparently daily blogging. I don't know how he does it, although I do know that at the time of this video, he is planning to slow his blogging down a little bit, I think to 2 posts a week. Anyway, I digress. One of my content creation goals for 2018 was more blogging, and that definitely did happen. I also had a goal of more vlogging, content like this, the sort of content you're watching right now, and that did not really happen. At least it didn't happen on YouTube. But I did create some content on platforms like Twitter and LinkedIn and Facebook, and I shared a few short clips that were maybe something that I had been thinking about, something I was passionate about, or just learning at the moment. And those videos were actually really well received. And so I've got more confidence and more motivation and encouragement to take this vlogging thing to the next level in 2020. More on that later. Another content creation goal for me, and this really had to be a big one in 2019, was my thesis. And my thesis turned out to be 61 pages of research material, heavily researched by my standards. I mean, I haven't done a whole lot of research in recent years. And it was massive. And it took some blood, sweat, and tears. It was not fun or easy every moment, although the topic happened to be educational podcasting and its impacts on practice. I could talk more about that some other time as well. Actually, a really fascinating field and not well enough researched. But the thesis itself, again, it was really, I called it my baby because it was a long pregnancy, let me tell you. It took several months of deep work. And by the time I finally delivered that baby, I was battling some real discouragement. I don't know if we would call it clinical depression, but I was having some rough days there. And let me tell you, the blood, sweat, and tears was not it was not metaphorical entirely, if you catch my drift. Yes, I cried. That got finished and accepted, and when I finally got that email back, it was a highlight of my year. I still, the heartbeat picks up a little bit when I think about that moment of finishing the journey, finishing the dream. So that was a major piece of content created in 2019, and that's something I do not plan to do again for a very long time. PhD, you will have to wait. I do have to say that I learned a whole lot about educational podcasting as a part of that research, and both field research and academic research, or literature. We call it the Lit Review. And I learned a lot in both places about what people are saying and doing with this medium, and that was really exciting. I really need to do a better job of sharing that information with my Teachers on Fire podcast audience. But I digress again. The main point here is that I created an enormous and personally and professionally significant piece of content, that being my thesis, which, by the way, completed my Master's in Educational Leadership degree. And so, yes, I am now Master KV, not Mr. KV, Master KV. And I do make my students call me Master KV. No, I don't. A second goal for creation. Remember, my one word is create in 2019. A second goal for creation was this whole business of creating new learning. Now, obviously, my thesis paper was an enormous part of that. I learned a ton, but I also wanted to read more books in 2019. In 2018, Goodreads, and by the way, if you're not on Goodreads, you really need to get over there because it's an amazing platform if you love books. Connect with me there if you are on Goodreads. Goodreads tells me that I completed 10 books in 2018, and so I set a goal of 15 books. Probably shouldn't have done that with my thesis research paper looming over my head this year, but I thought I would aim high. Well, at the time of this recording, I have completed 8. So I'm kind of on pace to match my 2018 record. And you know what? I'm okay with that because it's not a complete loss. I've actually read 8 to 10 more books in my life. You know what I mean, right? I've completed 10 more books in 2019, or hopefully by December 31st, I will have read that many books. And so, yes, I've done a whole lot more reading. Right now, I am reading a book by Jeff Goins. Oh, it is blowing my mind. And I finished a book by Elizabeth Gilbert called Big Magic. If you need motivation in any act of creation, check out Big Magic. Amazing book. But again, 8 right now, hopefully 10 books finished by the end of 2019. I'm calling that a partial win. Oh, and by the way, I do know I've got a colleague. Her name is Chelsea. Can I say that? Yes, I can say that. Her name is Chelsea, and she has read listened to something like 80 books this year. 80 books! And you know what? She's got a hack going on, and it's called audiobooks. And I don't know, maybe she even listens to the audiobooks at 1.25 or 1.5 speed. The point is, audiobooks are an amazing hack. Do I use them? Not that much. Have I started? Yes, a little bit. The point is, I know I could read more books if I start using more audiobooks, but that's a painful decision for me. Number one, I would have to give up highlighting, and I love highlighting and curating my highlights and collecting them all in my Goodreads account. And number two, I would have to give up podcasts, or at least listen to fewer podcasts. And I listen to a lot of them, and I enjoy them, and so I don't really want to give that up. Thank you very much. But yes, audiobooks, I know you're there, and I'm coming for you to some small extent at some time in the future. We'll see. Right now, I started an audiobook called Deep Work by Cal Newport. Phenomenal read. It's already inspiring me, and I know I need to have more moments where I have very focused and deep and undistracted work, and that's what Cal Newport is really all about if you know his stuff. Fun fact, Cal Newport is a prolific author but is not on Twitter. Still on the theme of creating new learning experiences, one of the things I wanted to do was help my 8th grade students create new learning themselves, enter into new learning experiences that they had never experienced before. So something I started in January of 2019 was the Great Expectations podcast. It's spelled GR8, get it? Great Expectations, great as in grade 8. Does that make sense? Great Expectations podcast. And of course, Great Expectations is a reference to the great Charles Dickens novel. If you haven't read that, okay, you're not missing much. But thank you very much to my colleague, Riley Dewick, for that very clever podcast name, by the way. The point is, my students have begun to put content, record audio content or more of it, and actually submit that on Google Classroom. And from there, I make these podcast episodes and I share them back with students and with their parents. And now we are building this legacy of learning that they can always refer back to in the future. It's a beautiful thing. I love it. You should really get on that train. By the way, if you're looking to start it in your classroom, all you need is your phone, because there's something called Anchor. It publishes it for free across every platform. It publishes your podcasts across every platform for free. So the other day, for example, I had a check-in circle in my class. I asked students what they are looking forward to learning and creating over the Christmas holidays. And we passed around my phone and I just let it record the whole time. And at the end of it, I had a podcast episode. You can check that out right now on Great Expectations. But it really is that simple. And that is another thing I brought to my practice this year that I'm quite proud of. Thank you very much. I'm joining people like Hans Appel at his award-winning culture building podcast, award-winning culture, I think it's called. I've listened to a few episodes, Hans. It's amazing what you're doing with those kids. It doesn't have to be, for other teachers looking to do the same, you don't have to go all the way to the Hans standard. You can start at my bar, which is down here, just recording your students talking about stuff and learning. So it doesn't have to be scripted. You don't have to overthink this. Just get them recording and sharing their learning on a new medium. Still on the theme of creating new learning, my own professional learning, oh my goodness, I could write pages about this, but I'll just drop a couple of highlights from the year. One, I spoke a couple of weeks ago at an all middle school chapel, that's right, in front of about 350 people, about growth mindset, and that was super exciting and awesome for me because that is a topic I'm super passionate about. Something else I did earlier this year was I spoke at an Ignite style session in front of a room full of educators. That was also a blast. And I feel like I grew a lot in terms of my own feedback and assessment models, because last year was the first year in my professional career that I have not entered any numbers in my gradebook. You heard me correctly. I did not record any numbers or percentages in my gradebook for the entire year for any subject. And I teach 8th graders from most subjects. And so that was a new journey for me as well, but very exciting and very interesting and illuminating. If you haven't done it, you should really try it. I've got people who you should be connected to. I also read a couple of phenomenal book study books here with my staff, with my own colleagues at my school, and one of them was called 10 Mind Frames for Learning from John Hattie and Corwin Publishers. Phenomenal book about knowing your impact on learning and knowing your impact on students and their learning. Okay, same thing. And the second book, the book we are currently reading right now, we're 6 chapters into, is called Hacking Discipline by Brad Weinstein and Nathan Maynard. And I am connected to both of these bright fellows on the different social medias, but make sure you check out Hacking Discipline. And already there's so much good stuff in that book, some of which I have adopted directly into my practice, but it includes these restorative circles and circle check-ins and circles. Like, you've got to have more circles in your class. It builds culture so well. So make sure you check that out. And if you are looking for great questions, I've made a whole Google Doc full of questions you can ask your class. And they are great ways to build relationships and accelerate learning, and just sharing learning between students is so valuable. So plus, I have the most amazing class this year. They're so nice. And so I just love sitting in circles with them and talking. It's actually really, really fun. But that is another key part of my professional learning this year, I would say, is those 2 books that we are reading as a staff. So thank you, Kathy Holmes, my instructional coach. Shout out to you. All right, we've talked about creating content, creating new learning. The third and final act of creation that I really wanted to jump into in 2019 is this whole idea of creating new relationships, right? I mean, we are always looking to network and build alliances and connections and life-giving relationships with other people, personally and professionally. Aren't we all wanting to do that? I hope so. I hope you aren't content with being a disconnected educator and only knowing the people across the hall or down the hall from you. I mean, there's a whole world of educators out there who are super passionate about what they're doing, and they're inspiring learning everywhere. So I'm not talking down to you if you're disconnected, but please hop on Twitter, start an account, start sharing stuff on Instagram, get on YouTube. I can't really say that because this is like my first vlog post ever, but be a connected educator, guys and girls. We got to get out there. We got to get to meet some other people, because it's only a win for everyone. When you share your ideas, when you share your failings, your revelations, things that worked, things that didn't, other people will listen. Other people care, and it improves the learning of other students. There's so many great stories, but as George Couros says, you've got to find ways to make great learning go viral. Make great learning go viral. How are you sharing your learning? So I didn't mean to get so preachy right now, but that's kind of what this is turning into. I wanted to create new relationships this year, and that really did happen. I have an @Teachers on Fire presence across social media on just about every platform except TikTok. Well, technically, I think I might have a presence on TikTok. I'm not really sure. I did try to log in this week, and I kind of got weirded out. I mean, it looks really hilariously funny, but I'm not sure what I can contribute to that conversation other than just walking across a room and maybe falling on my face and putting that to music. I'm not really sure TikTok if I can connect there. But anyway, I've been busy connecting with other educators @Teachers on Fire everywhere, and that's awesome. And I love following more people and being followed by more people, and that's great. We all love that. But even more important are the real, authentic, life-giving, inspirational relationships. And if I start shouting out names, and I so want to right now, I'm scared because I will definitely leave people out. Let me just say, every guest I've featured on the Teachers on Fire podcast, you are my homies, because we've had those conversations offline, by email, by social media, and then in real time before and during and after the recording. And I feel like a lot of you have really supported my work so much, and you've inspired me, and I've learned so much from you. And so shout out to you if you've been on my podcast. Thank you so much for making my learning that much more significant this year. But I also want to say to my fellow edu podcasters out there, you say, what? What is an edu podcaster? I'm talking about educators who are making podcasts like me. Thank you so much as well for doing your thing. You've really inspired me this year, and I feel really close to some of you people, guys and girls, and I look forward to meeting some of you in New York City, of all places. That is happening, and I can't believe it. So it's really cool when some of these online professional relationships become real life. IRL is where it's at. But until IRL happens, I'm just so thankful for the amazing online professional network, professional connections I've made. It's been super awesome and inspiring and exciting and life-giving for me and in my practice. So that has totally happened this year. Look, this year wasn't perfect, and I'm not here to say that I achieved every single one of my goals. It would be awesome if I did, but I'm thankful for One Word 2019. I'm thankful for One Word 2019 because through new content, new learning, and new relationships, I do feel like this year was a special year for me. And whether it was blogs or mini vlogs or podcasting or my thesis or new speaking opportunities or new meaningful relationships or new learning experiences for my students, it was really wonderful and really amazing, and I'm celebrating a lot. So 2020, that's going to be an interesting challenge. I'm not sure where my one word is going for 2020, but I hope it'll be awesome. I hope it'll take me to some new places. I hope it'll scare me a little bit, and stay tuned. Stay tuned. For now, that's it from me. Whatever you are doing, wherever you are going, whatever you're learning, take care. Thanks for watching.